Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mia Molson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with a terrific gentleman who's a music and therapist who grew up in Montana, now living in Mobile, Alabama. He was raised among the sheep and dental floss up in the great Northwest. He studied music and psychology, pursued a graduate and post-doctorate in Mobile, and he opened up a private practice and began construction of the GuiTARDIS. And what is that? We'll find out from the good doctor. He has dozens of scientific publications from neuroscience and unconscious cognition to adult personality and psychology as well, too. And he's also got a new album called Rixile Elixir. We'll talk about that, featuring the title track and more, along with different drummers and Genus Iquius and more as well, too. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Mobile, Alabama. Sweet home, the amazing music therapist with Rixile Elixir. Ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented John Kline. John, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. Just to set the record straight, I mean, I want to give the University of Arizona, University of Nebraska their credit, because that's where I did my graduate work. Nebraska for my master's degree and the University of Arizona for my doctorate, which is in clinical psychology. And my internship was at Medical College of Pennsylvania, Hahnemann University. So,
wow.
Yeah, right. Academic gypsy was just like Eastern Washington University, Florida State University, University of South Alabama, and now here I am as a full-time therapist. How did that happen?
Well, of course, I'm sure we'll give some therapy in just a minute as well, too. It's amazing having therapy as well, too, along with music. You're a musician, therapist, who grew up in Montana. Now you're in Mobile, Alabama, studied music and psychology and pursued graduate and post doctorate as well, too, in all the universities that you had mentioned, traveled all over. You opened a private practice, began construction of the GuiTARDIS, and dozen scientific publications from neuroscience and unconscious cognition to adult personality and psychology as well, too. And we'll talk about your latest release, Rixile Elixir, featuring the title track and more. And before getting all that, John, tell us how you first got started.
Well, my mom and dad. I mean, it's like my dad, as I told you, he was from Fargo, and he was going through Glendive, and he met my mom, who was working at an insurance adjuster's office. And you didn't want me to go back that far.
You can do it. Go ahead.
That was like they had their first date. They quickly fell in love, and our family was started. I was born in Helena, Montana, and that's where I grew up and spent all of my formative years, childhood and adolescence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what was at one precise moment simply influenced you to what you're doing for the rest of your career?
Oh man, there were so many. One of them was just meeting some of the musicians like Hal Clifford and Mike Malloy, who were like early influences when I was around 10, when I first started picking up the guitar, and then people like Al Estrada, who I studied with, and eventually I started to hear all sorts of different kinds of classical and jazz and rock and progressive music, and I was just always drawn to the musicality of it. Voices are great. I mean, these like wonderful coloratura of voices that can just sing the phone book and make it sound magical.
I remember those days of singing the phone book. You even read the phone book, the encyclopedia editorial pages, the obituaries. It's like singing the phone book. I'm about to do it again one day.
Right on, man. It's like when you get to X, it gets a little bit difficult there, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's how we do it. So. And of course, since we're on the lines of musicians and everything else, who were some of your other favorites growing up?
Oh man, probably Yes, and in Kansas, and Gentle Giant. And I started listening to jazz, like John Coltrane, and some Pat Metheny, of course, like a huge influence, Alan Holdsworth, people like that. And I guess that then I started playing in cover bands, so everybody became my influence because I was learning my lines to play the shows.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And of course you got your own music as well, too. Rixile Elixir, and you also have different drummers, Genus Iquius, and also You also had Luminescence, your popular single. Talk about your music in just a minute with John Kline. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SonicWeb Studios is the answer. SonicWeb Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews, and Eve 11 endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes, Riley, and Notes. So grab your copy today for it goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. Over 40 podcast platforms heard in 100 countries, including Facebook, Spotify, iHeart, Apple, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on LinkedIn as well, too, along with BitChute, Rumble. Follow us on Threads, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and more. Take us with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, makes great gifts 24/7. Just go to Amazon.com, check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast, and for more great gift ideas, Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles, also T-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. And support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here, a musician, therapist who grew up in Montana, now living in Mobile, Alabama. He grew up among the sheep and dental floss. John Kline here on the Mike Wagner Show. Before I talk about your latest release, Rixile Elixir, featuring the title track and more, you got involved with private practice. You studied you studied psychology and also neuroscience and a lot more. How'd you first get started? Be involved with therapists and also getting involved in neuroscience and more.
It's funny, it's like I moved to Omaha, Nebraska to start a band with Kevin Peterson, and I ended up getting accepted into the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And one thing led to another, and I was offered funding and other incentives to finish my master's and even stay on to do my doctorate there. But I really ended up hitting it off with Gary Schwartz at the University of Arizona. So I decided to go down there, and one thing led to another. And then we were doing olfaction research, we were doing emotion research, personality research. And it was just one of these wonderfully diverse, intellectually stimulating environments that I just really felt like I thrived in, And so John Allen taught me some stuff about digital recording of brain waves. And I was thinking, hey, this isn't so different from recording audio signals. And that's, I guess, where I started doing audio engineering, was because I was a brainwave researcher.
Oh my gosh. And how'd you first get involved with research, interest in neuroscience and unconscious cognition and all that stuff? So
I think it was the interest in defense mechanisms, the idea that somebody could lie to themselves, that they could believe a falsity, but actually really believe the falsity, So I got interested in how the brain would pull off self-deception. Why would it do that? And, how would it do that? And of course, music, I got interested in how, many things in music overlapped with psychology. Like, for example, how fat, when somebody's playing a rapid, set of notes, that's a set of discrete brain commands going out and, telling the fingers to do that. That's something that just really interested me, just when somebody's playing really quickly, that the brain is actually processing things that quickly, that those are actually in effect, sort of thoughts that are going along, several times per second, and unfolding, so in the work that I did with unconscious cognition, I guess that, you could say that the answer to how does the brain pull off the trick of self-deception, I would say, quite quickly, it does it really fast within milliseconds, kind of like how you can pull off a really fast run because you've practiced it, so many times, and it just, comes off seamlessly and automatically, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
And of course, I also thought about too that having like the music tying to personality, and of course, you kind of venture into as well too. And how'd you make that transition? You know, become therapist to it seems like almost like a full-time musician. And speaking of that, you're in your studio called the GuiTARDIS, and tell us about that. This sounds like something from
it's a
Doctor Who.
pun. It's a pun, yeah. I'm a Doctor Who fan. So TARDIS is time and relative dimension in space, and he has the capability of going anywhere in time and space almost instantaneously. So I decorated the studio to look a lot like a TARDIS, and have like it's just kind of a playful, fun, inspiring, happy environment. And I think that where the music came in is really a therapeutic aspect. And I started to discover how useful it was for soothing my savage breast, for helping me process different kinds of difficult emotions and rumination and worry and whatnot. And it's just like there's this force majeure that when I look over the tapestry of my life, I realize that, a principal reason that I end up in Mobile, Alabama, integrating music and psychology in the way that I do, because in music for me, I compose and it just comes to me in like these epiphanies of, creative activity that, it's like the experience as though I'm being given this, to, express. So it's a very spiritual thing, because the actual expression of the music, yeah, I've studied it, I've immersed myself in it, I've learned about it. But when these ideas come to me, I'm so surprised because, I just think, well, I don't know that much, you know. So it's really a process that I'm going to continue to do. And I'm really gratified that, people are listening to it and enjoying it.
And of course, you've got your own music as well too. Before I talk about your latest release, Rixile Elixir, you also did Genus Aquis with the music therapy experiment. That's one of your first projects, and tell us about that.
Well, the music therapy experiment has like, I think 7 albums and a couple of, a few different singles out. And then I had, I think 5 albums and an EP under my own, name. Um, so, I've been doing the creative musicianship, for about 20 years.
Wow.
I started, my first album was called Flipside, and it came out 20 years ago. So Rixile Elixir is really also a celebration of 20 years of learning how to create music. I think I'm making progress. I have I believe that the album that I just produced shows growth as an engineer, as a musician, as a composer, as a performer, everything. Even from an aesthetic standpoint, my wife can stand to listen to the whole thing. So that generally is a good sign, because and when we were Mark and I put on an album, Mark Christensen is the drummer that I play with the music therapy experiment. He and I collaborate. He's a multi-instrumentalist as well, and plays bass and guitar and the like. So we have had an album a couple of years ago called Art and the Science, and I ended up having to spend some time on a court case, and it had my once that when that happens, I got to spend time on it, right? So the music just sort of got on the back burner, so we never got a chance to really promote that one. And Rixile Elixir, I mean, he didn't get to participate on that. He's got a family and he has his own responsibilities and whatnot too, and that always comes first, family, or like something with my psychological practice, will come first. It has to.
And it's totally understandable. And I forgot to ask you, how'd you come up with the name Rixile Elixir? That sounds like a really cool name.
Thank you. Rixile Elixir, it's Rixile is actually elixir backward, so
Ah,
it's a
gotcha.
palindrome. It's spelled the same way backward as it is forward. And I thought it was a nice bit of serendipity that Rixile actually translates into sunrise, good morning. You know, and it's a Sitsonga word. It's from South Africa. And I loved the idea of it being, you know, multicultural in its influences, because it really is. I mean, it's I mean, I joke that I have genre identity disorder, because you know, I'm a hodgepodge of so many different mixes from new age to old age, you know. So
genre identity disorder. I'm gonna have to remember that. Now, do you recommend a prescription for that?
you know, just actually, I think that what you have to do is just accept your musicality, and you know, be who you are as a musician, and don't worry about fitting in. Just just play something that sounds like it fits where you are, you know. That's one of the things I really love about playing with other musicians, is, you know, finding those commonalities, and, you know, being able to play off of each other. And you know, it's really a blast, and I look forward to doing more of that in the future.
You also had some other releases like Eye of the Storm, Downward. What was it?
Downward
Faxing.
facing dogs, yeah.
Yes, that was the other one, and instrumental conditioning. And you know, tell us about the two, Eye of the Storm and Downward Facing Dogs.
Well, downward facing dogs, you know, it's, of course, it's another pun for yoga posture, you know, downward dog. And I had this picture that was taken of me with my two dogs, you know, Buddy and Bella, you know. So the pun was irresistible. And of course, it gave me, you know, an album concept. And when you're writing instrumental music and trying to figure out what to call these pieces is, you know, is pretty difficult, because it's purely instrumental. It's just, you know, trying to make a joyful noise, you know, and that's what it comes down to. I can make more joyful noises with a guitar than I can with a voice, as it turns out. So that's generally where I gravitate. Guitar, keyboards, bass, dabble in some drums. I do sing from time to time, and every once in a while I release something, because I vacillate between liking it and cringing at it. So
sometimes I can't you know, enjoy my voice when it comes to singing and all that. That's reserved for the shower. So or in the car too. Yeah. So oh my goodness. And of course you also have the very popular song Luminous as well too. And if there's other material you want to talk about, some popular singles, Spotify and all
yeah,
that, feel free to talk about it.
that was you know, I dedicate that to Jeff Beck, you know, who was also another, you know, major influence, who passed away this year. And you know, there were just some things that I was doing with you know, playing with claw hammer kind of picking, because, you know, he didn't really use a pick. He did everything, you know, kind of you know, finger style, you know. So I was playing with some of that, and I was, you know, just thinking of some of the really funky, grooving, rocking things that he did that were so much fun to listen to when I was growing up. And I decided, yeah, this is, you know, what to call it. I don't know. It just popped into my head, luminescence, you know. It fits, because, you know, Jeff Beck, you know, left such a legacy. He was brilliant.
And brilliant indeed too, as well too. I'll talk about your brilliance with the title track, Drive the Mobile, Happy Little Echoes, and To the Sky More from Rixile Elixir from John Kline. We'll talk about in a minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundWeb Studios, and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing. We'll be back with musician therapist from Mobile, Alabama, John Kline, after this time. We're back with music therapist, grew up in Montana, and now Mobile, Alabama, John Kline here on the Mike Wagner Show. And you know, I still get the phrase out of, like, you know, raised by sheeps and dental floss.
It was just a silly joke, you know, that people used to make jokes about me being from Montana, and they would, you know, like say where the sheep are scared and stuff like that, you know. And the dental floss comes from Frank Zappa. I'm going to Montana soon to be a dental floss cut tycoon. So just some, you know, silly humor, you know. But let me be clear. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a music therapist. Generally does some different therapeutic things with music than I would. I mean, I would use music, and I do, for some of my patients who need it to help manage their anxiety and, give them something to engage in rather than destructive rumination and whatnot. And I typically do that with people who have some interest in playing music. If they don't have the interest in playing music, or they don't have a background, or that's not for them, cognitive restructuring can be accomplished by other methodologies. It's just that, since I am a musician, I might as well use it.
Mm-hmm. And certainly do as well too. You also have the title track from Rixile Elixir, Drive the Mobile, Happy Little Echoes, and To the Sky. And tell us about those. What inspired you to construct them, since you're mainly you're somewhat of a vocalist, but you prefer the music. And tell us more about those. What inspired to write, create, and everything. If there's other from releases, feel free to talk about as well.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I don't know. I guess there's a pretty long catalog, and I guess I think that the thing that's most interesting about it is the growth, through it. Early on, there were some ideas that I brought back, like, for example, Life's Dance from Flipside, got reperformed on instrumental conditioning, and then when I did a new performance of it, which, by the way, I played with a Paul Reed Smith Hollow Body 2 with the piezo and some wood modeling, from the Sound Machine, Woodwork Sound Machine plugin. And it sounds like an acoustic guitar. I was so blown away. It sounds just like my Taylor, right? So I did that, and I recorded it with the cello, and we're driving along in the car, and it's called Life's Dance, and my wife's listening to it and saying, it's an illusion. It sounds like a duo. It needs to be called Illusion. I'm like, okay, it's Illusion now, right? And To the Sky is, we're driving to Dauphin Island, and she gets so excited, just like these like little moments of natural joy, and she's like beams, and so we're going up this bridge, and you can see the sky, and we're to the sky. She gets and I just thought about that song being, To the Sky, because the motif is based on Wedding Dance, which was written for her from the first Genus Equus album, which of course was named for her favorite hobby of equestrian. She likes to ride horses, and we've done a bit of that together too. So that we called it that because Mark did this wonderful abstract art for the cover. I mean, he didn't know he was doing it for the cover at the time, but I looked at it and I'm like, it looks like a couple of horses. And it almost, I matched this picture of two horses that we had, color scheme and everything. So it was like, okay, Genus Equus, you got to go with things like that.
That's rather interesting. And where can we find our music at, including Rixile Elixir?
Well, you can these days mainly it's online at most of the digital download services. Spotify is a good place to look. I've been really enjoying SoundCloud because of the interactive capabilities. People make comments and and that kind of thing. So that's pretty fun. But it's on Apple Music and Tidal and YouTube and probably on some pirates' hard drives by now. At least you would hope that they wanted enough to steal it.
And of course, you can steal anything these days. It sounds like you already know about it. Of course, who knows, the Chinese might be involved with it too. So
yeah, I've been really kind of I don't know. I played around with Chat GPT a bit, and it's pretty far along. I mean, it's but it's kind of like a dementia patient though, because it's factually challenged. So I asked it about me. I had it go into my history and read about my stuff, and it got a lot of stuff wrong. And when it linked me to the National Library of Medicine, it sent me to cancer journals and things like that. And I've never.
Oh my gosh.
So according to ChatGPT, I lived in Berkeley, which I never have, and published a bunch of papers that I'd never published that were in the topic area that I do publish in, but it just made up alternative facts. So yeah, I haven't really delved into what artificial intelligence can do with music and whatnot, and I don't think I'm going to.
Just keep doing it yourself. You don't need any drones right now. So
well, thank you. I'm not in need of any drones. If I need to be Locutus of Borg, really worry about me.
We'll certainly do that as well, too. We're here with John Kline, musician therapist from Mobile, Alabama, the Mike Wagner Show at the Rixile Elixir. And what else can you expect from you in 2023 and beyond, John?
Oh, I'm gonna, keep making music, and I'm gonna keep, helping people heal. And I'm going to love my wife and love my family and play with my dog and enjoy some sunshine and keep releasing music, and I'll keep putting it out there. So if anybody's interested in it, they'll be able to find it.
We'll certainly do that as well. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Oh gosh, in terms of my career as a psychologist, I would say Gary Schwartz. He was my mentor at the University of Arizona, and he taught me so many things, not just about science, but about, basically being a good human being. And I would also say, musically, it would have to be, boy, I don't know, there's just so many. I don't know, there's some heroes that I met recently, like, Danny Danzy, who taught me a lot about, he's from New Jersey. He taught me a lot about, production. And it's like, if you can actually hear distinction in my bass lines, it's because of Danny.
Mm.
Irina's been a huge influence on my music lately, but growing up, it had to be like Pat Metheny and Alan Holdsworth, Steve Morse, Eric Johnson, prog rock of pretty much any kind. There were other quirky favorites like XTC and the Tubes and all sorts of different kinds of bands from different genres. I just love music. And oh yeah, I played in a country band for a while too. So Randy Travis and Merle Haggard in the woodpile there. So
that is interesting, especially in Mobile as well too. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Don't give advice. No, actually, I guess play because you love it. And also when you do play, if you find yourself, engaging in negative self-talk, like, oh, that was bad, or just tell yourself thank you for sharing and say, okay, what am I going to do differently? I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to, go for the intonation. I don't need to go fast. I just want to make it sound pretty, And it doesn't have to be complicated to be pretty. You just start off where you are, and before you know it, you're someplace that you never thought you would be.
And that's very good advice as well too. And I certainly appreciate that. I should apply to me too. So we're here, musician therapist from Mobile, Alabama, or Rixile Elixir, John Kline here on the Mike Wagner Show. John, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your works?
Yeah, contact. I have my for my for therapy services, they can contact me by phone. I'm on the Psychology Today website and whatnot. They can find me there. Or just Google John Kline, Mobile, Alabama. I should be a little bit easier to find pretty soon too. Marquee Who's Who, just publishing my biography this year. It's kind of a fun little thing that I didn't expect. So I think that's going to make it easier to find me in the search engine. So all they have to do is do John Kline, psychologist, Mobile, Alabama, or they can search for John Kline, music, or search for the music therapy experiment. And I'm on iTunes and Spotify and YouTube and my couch. So.
Okay, from the couch. We'll certainly check it out from the couch. We'll do that. So once again, John, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. Wish you all best. And John, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was a pleasure, and I'd come back anytime.